Who's your favorite team in the 64 field? Are you frustrated that maybe your favorite team had a good year and didn't make it in? Either way, we celebrate college baseball. This is Perfect Game College Baseball. For the last year and a half, Hunter Pence and I have been honored to host this show, and this is why we do it this time of year when you see the joy in the athletes that are heading into this great field. And we also want to respect the JUCO, the NAI, the D2 players that are getting to play into their respective tournaments. Hi there, folks. Perfect Game College Baseball celebrates the sport. And Hunter, this is kind of the pinnacle, if you will, for these athletes. They've been grinding, they went home for the holidays, and they hit the ground running on January 1st, and 64 teams get to go to the tournament. Kind of fun, isn't it?
It's absolutely fun. It's beautiful. This is the most exciting time in baseball, and this is the memories of a lifetime. You'll never forget it. Congratulations to all the teams that got in, and now it's time to sit back and enjoy the show because it's playoff baseball, and it's not going to be any more passionate than college playoff baseball.
Yeah, it's incredible. The energy, it'd be like, the energy on the campus, it'd be like in pro ball if you went to all these different sites and then pulled together to a neutral site. Just the energy and hosting and the teams that get to host, the story of Tennessee and what they've pulled off this year. But also equally as fun as the story, Hunter, and our viewers of a team like Hofstra. Frank Catalanato, a very respected major leaguer, I think I can say that very safely when he played, a wonderful hitter, is the head coach at Hofstra. We're going to chat with a guy who's one of his key bats, a 23-year-old in Brian Morells. He was a great pitcher. He's now a great hitter. He went to Notre Dame. He was a PG legend. We saw him at the National Showcase. I'm excited to talk with Brian Morells.
Yeah, Brian Morells had an incredible season, and Hofstra has had an even more remarkable story. So very excited to get to talk with him about their journey this year and playing for Frank Catalanato, the great hitter.
Yeah, I played at Jupiter, by the way, Morells, 3 times. It's only a senior event. Went there as a junior, went there as a sophomore, was training himself up. That's our show. Vinny Servino will join us as well for Perfect Game to take a look at some of the key stories heading into the NCAA tournament. He's Hunter. I'm Darren. Thanks for hanging with us on Perfect Game College Baseball. Here we go. A celebration of baseball's big dance, if you will, on Perfect Game College Baseball. Hunter Pence, Darren Sutton, and you. And Brian Morells, and his baseball journey has been incredible, and his Hofstra team is going to the NCAA tournament. We want to talk about how they did it getting out of that Colonial because everything was a nail-biter. And Brian's journey has been a very unique one. And so what a great reward for his stick-to-itness through the pandemic and a couple of transfers to take on North Carolina to open things up in the NCAA tournament. Hey, Brian, thanks for spending time with Hunter and I. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for having me on here today.
We'll get into your journey, and it's been a unique one, and congrats on what you've accomplished, sticking to college baseball. But what have the last couple of days been like for you? You've got family, you've got loved ones, you've got great teammates, and they're somewhat new. But what have the last couple of days been like for you? Just reflecting on, my gosh, I've been through all this. I get to go to the NCAA tournament with my team. What have they been like?
It's surreal. It's hard to explain in words what happened this year and what this team has accomplished. For me, just going from starting off at a Power 5 conference, starting at Notre Dame and going to St. John's, and then coming here for my last year, I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm blessed. And then, this coaching staff and this team, we have a heart and a passion to do something special. And having this opportunity to make a regional, I'm excited, and we're definitely committed to winning, and we want to do something special.
Well, you definitely are already on the path of doing something special, Brian. And that leads me to one of my first questions, Brian. Obviously, a great journey. You've played at several wonderful programs. But the opportunity, and we got to talk with Frank Catalanato a little bit, the opportunity to play for Frank Catalanato and the coaching staff, what has that been like for you on your journey?
Oh, man, it's definitely special, especially having a head coach with big league experience. Him being almost a career 300 hitter, having almost 15 years in the bigs. Having him as our leader and our head coach, it's definitely a great opportunity for all of us to have us. We've learned so much from him, and definitely the other coaches as well, having pro experience. it's like a professional mindset, and they bring it to everyone. And I mean, everyone on this team has bought into everything that they preach, and it's something special having them alongside us through this journey. And I mean, it's a great feeling.
You're absolutely right. And just the little bit of time we had with him, you could tell, like, just amazing human, amazing baseball player. And it seems like he's able to pass the knowledge as well. But I want to hear, Brian, from you. Obviously, you're on a 9-game win streak heading into this regional. You mentioned playing with passion, with a heartbeat.
Yes, sir.
Like, what did you give us some lessons of what you learned from Catalinato and the coaching staff? Because obviously, you know, it reflected in an amazing year. And I'm gonna list your stats here real quick, just a couple of them: 352 average, 8 home runs, and a 981 OPS. You know, what exactly did you take from Catalinato and this coaching staff that we can pass on to some of the viewers listening and watching?
The willing to fight, not give up. I mean, me especially, like, just learning from him, like, every game that we play, like, having no regrets. Going in there, knowing that we could win this game. Who cares about what the team looks like, how their stats are, who they are, what their tradition is, like, if they're a winning program, who cares? I mean, we came in, we had a 2%, I think we have a 2% chance to win the CAA. And going in, we knew all along, like, if we play our game, we're winning this whole thing. I mean, it was a lot of close ones, but we accomplished something special. So, I mean, what we took from them was just play our game, not try to do too much. I mean, just continuing the battle, never give up. Because, I mean, a lot of games, I think we've had 8 walk-offs this year. And we've walked off 3 times in the CAA tournament. And also, we're the away team against UNC Wilmington, and we won in an extra inning game. So, I mean, our willingness to fight and never give up, I think that was huge for us.
Brian, it's interesting when I look back with you, and I'd like to do that a little bit. You were drafted out of high school. You were a ridiculously amazing pitcher. Heck, I remember seeing you at the 2016 National Showcase, and you did great things. Big arm there, and it seemed like pitching was your journey. I saw you at some events with Tri-State Arsenal and some other different travel teams. But kind of take me back to then. You know, Long Island's king of the mound and an amazing guy. And I'm not aging you, trying to make you sound that old, but yeah, that was a different baseball time in your life. You really were an incredible pitcher in high school. Help me understand your baseball journey before you got to Notre Dame.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, it was definitely more so, like, early on in my career, it was more of the pitching side of things. And, I mean, it just didn't work out. I went to Notre Dame. I had high expectations coming in. It just didn't work out there. I mean, I had a great opportunity there. The experience there, playing at Notre Dame, being on the campus, experiencing playing other schools, especially where we're going right now, playing UNC, seeing these programs play, and playing against them as well, getting the opportunity to pitch on the mound. It's definitely changing in the fact that I'm now an outfielder, but those years I've learned so much because going from the pitcher position where I was for 3 years and going to a position guy now, I think that makes me it made me even better player, so to say. I pitched. It didn't work out, but I see things now different. Being an outfielder, being a hitter, seeing pitchers, how they sequence everything. Because, like, being a pitcher once, I see things differently. I feel like different than other guys, other hitters, not having the opportunity to be, like, not being a pitcher. So I think learning from that stage of my life, being a hitter now, I see stuff different in the box, and I feel like it's helped me a lot.
It's funny. It's funny the way you're describing it. We've all been through transitions in our life. Hunter, me, you. I think it worked out great. I think it worked out great. I mean, look at where you are now, and look at what you've learned, and look at the depth and wisdom that you have in going through what you're going through. With that in mind, on March 6th of 2022 against St. Peter's, you hit your first college home run. I can't even imagine how that felt. With your amazingly long journey, what did that feel like? That first college home run?
It was awesome. I mean, I never try to do too much at the plate. I'm always a guy that's just looking to hit something hard. My approach is more so opposite field, middle of the field, like that kind of approach. So, when I hit it, I was like, wow, I just barreled that. It went over. It took it to right center. But, it was definitely a great feeling knowing that, I could definitely show some pop.
Absolutely. It definitely is a great feeling. And you really intrigued me, Brian, like hearing how, getting on the mound and pitching gave you like a perspective as a hitter that was unique. And, a lot of times we don't realize how hard what the other person we're competing against is trying to do, how difficult it is to locate, how difficult it is to, face hitters. I never got to do that. So tell me a little bit. I want to learn from you, like, what did you learn about sequencing? Because, I obviously got to watch Buster Posey for a long time, and like him being in that battle, like, and thinking ahead all the time was a big advantage. And he would use that because he's like, well, if the catcher has watched me do this, what's he doing? So I would love to hear from you, like, what you learned from pitching and how you applied that to your hitting.
Yeah, so like some of my bats against some of the teams in conference, I noticed that they were focusing more on the inner half of the plate. My approach is more so middle away, so I had to learn how to hit a pitch inside. But there's a few at bats where like I know they're going to start me slow, work me fast, and it's really hard to pitch. And it's really hard to locate consistently. Usually good pitchers, they don't hit their spots most of the time too. So it's just like it's more so just understanding what count it is, who I am as a hitter, being in the middle of the lineup. I'm going to see they're going to try to work the corners, not try to throw anything middle of the plate. Knowing that they can't really miss their pitch, so I try to capitalize on the missed pitches. I always try to. I'm trying to think of an at bat. I think like against Northeastern, they started me off breakers. I'm like, they're going to work me slow. Mid at bat, I'm like, they're going to work me slow, and then they're going to end me fast, which that was the plan. They started me off 2 curveballs, and then they worked me a fastball away, and I hit it the other way for a single. It's stuff like that. Like I see things that are going through my mind. I try to slow the game down as much as possible, and hopefully something good happens. I always try to put a good swing.
Wow, that's amazing, and that's fun, and that's what's so beautiful about baseball and having that experience and knowing yourself and knowing how they're going to try to come at you from a pitcher planning against another offense. So I want to ask you this because for me it was always fun playing that game. If you think they're coming inside and you're a guy that's trying to go middle the other way, and you said I had to find out how to hit the inside pitch with this approach, do you just lay off of it inside, or did you find a certain technique to cheat in, or did you find a way to adjust it?
Yeah, so usually if they're trying to pound me in, I'll try to turn on one as fast as possible. Like if they're coming me hard in, I'll swing as hard as I can, try to hit a foul, and then I'm like, okay, now that I turned on it, they're going to try to do the same thing, but they're going to try to work me slow. So I'll sit slow sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't work, but most of the time it's been working. They'll try to go a slider, and then that's where I could extend my hands and see if I could unleash one. And that's where that middle approach comes in, because if that slider's coming in middle, I have enough hands to take it out of the park.
Incredibly insightful, Brian. Really enjoying getting to know. I love when you and Hunter take off. I could let you guys go for a long, long time. Interesting with you and all the choices you've made that has brought you to this point. Drafted out of high school, which means you have a good relationship with the professional game. And especially regionally, we all know how it works, certainly. For you, have you been able to kind of determine, like, hey, man, I still want to make a run at this pro ball thing. I'm an athlete. I was, an elite arm, obviously, your mid-90s arm when you were getting right out of high school and into college. Kind of tell me your hopes and dreams beyond this great tournament. I know you're focused. I get you baseball guys, but tell me your hopes and dreams. And you're 23, so you can be a little bit more, honest with yourself at this point in your journey. Tell me a little bit about what you hope happens professionally.
I really hope I get the chance again, and that's my dream. Definitely playing professional baseball. Right now, we're locked in. We're locked in of winning this thing. We want to make a run, show some magic. I mean, having the coaching staff and everything. But I've talked about it with the coaches and stuff. Just my journey in general, like being a PO and then being a PO my 3 years of college, and then coming to St. John's and hitting for one season, and coming to Hofstra and really making a huge jump. I definitely want to play at the next level, and I feel like I have the mindset to do it. I have all the experience. I mean, just seeing programs, even when I didn't play it in my first few years, like I saw, like I watched the game and saw things. I wasn't the one that's gonna just like fool around and just like not care that I wasn't playing. I kind of saw things. I saw UNC when they made it to a College World Series with Michael Bush and those guys. Those guys were professional hitters, and I saw myself being one of those guys, like doing something special. And I really want to play professional baseball. That's definitely my dream and goal. And I know I'm an older guy, but just focusing on the moment right now and going to UNC and doing something special is definitely the first thing I want to do.
Well, Brian, I have to say that the mindset and the thought process is on par, and I absolutely love the fact that you purposefully hit a foul ball to try to bait them into coming back away. That is insane at bat approach. Like, unbelievable, Brian. So obviously,
I try to bait guys a lot.
Go ahead.
I mean, when I swing through sliders, sometimes it's like I'll see a slider, I'll swing right through it. I'm like, I'm gonna get that pitch again, and I'm just gonna stay on it and hit it the other way. Like that's my type of mentality. I'm not gonna swing through stuff twice. And even if they come with the fastball, I'll be able to hit it. Like that's I feel like I have so much trust in my hands that I know I could do something with it.
No, and it's actually extraordinarily rare for hitters to be able to sit off speed. It was something that I love to do, Brian. I was a big sit off speed, trust my hands. Like, you can get jammed on a fastball, shoot an inside fastball the other way, especially with an other way approach. And with that other way approach, you're going to stay on the slider, and you can like, as long as your path is through the zone, it's beautiful when you can learn to do it. And the fact that you're able to do that in college already, it's just leaps and bounds ahead of most. But I want to ask you about, obviously, 9-game win streak. You said we have a heartbeat, we have a pulse, we're all locked in. What does it feel like on a 9-game win streak with a team that's playing with just will? Like, we don't care. We know what's expected. This is our first time making it to a regional. We believe that we can come and win if we play our game. We don't try to do too much. Like, talk a little bit about that rhythm, because I'm a huge believer in no one trying to be the hero, everyone be themselves and being one heartbeat.
Yeah, no, it's amazing with this team. It's next man up mentality. It's something that Cap preaches. I feel like every game it's someone different. And going into the game, we know every at-bat counts. And every at-bat that we've taken so far, it's been – I feel like pitchers on the other side are like, what the heck is going on? Because, I mean, every at-bat's a battle. There's no hole in our lineup where a guy's going to strike out 3 pitches. Like, we're a type of team that if we get – even if the guy gets ahead, like, it's going to be a tough at-bat no matter what. And we just keep that mentality of next man up and showing the grit that we have. I mean, watching you play, I feel like you had a lot of grit when you played. I love watching you play. You're fast in the outfield. You always had crazy at bats. It was fun to watch. But I feel like that's the type of team that we are. We show a lot of grit and fight towards everything.
Wow.
Incredible stuff. I rarely do this, Brian, but you're mature enough to handle this on the spot thing. You already obviously have shared your respect for Hunter. I did. He beat my team as a visiting broadcaster a bunch. I hated him back then. But it's interesting. You guys here are talking. Just, would you have a single question? I always say, if you had a chance to have a meal with somebody who you looked up to, and, well, here's a pretty good player, do you have a question you want to throw at Hunter?
I mean, what was it like? What's it like being in a big league box? Like, hitting against a guy, like, toughest pitcher you've ever faced, like that type.
Man, toughest pitcher I ever faced was probably Tim Lincecum in his heyday. He was throwing 101 that ran about 3 feet. And he like kind of threw it from behind your neck because he did like the spin around, and he had a curveball that looked like it was going to hit you in the neck and then was like a ball away. And he threw a split finger as a right-handed pitcher that broke like a left-handed curveball, like the sharpest left-handed curveball. I've never seen a ball break like this from a right-handed hitter. And honestly, it was like, I'm at peace with dying because I'm not backing away. Like if it's 101 on my neck, I'm not, because if you flinch, you're just dead to the curveball. So it's just like, I'm willing to die to hit this ball. And I didn't hit it very often, but at least I stayed in there.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Another question I have, like,
go for it. Jump in there. I'll give you one more. Yeah, go. You got the floor.
Throw one more.
Do you remember any specific at-bats that you've had that were like, wow, like good at any great at-bats, like, in your career? I mean, you definitely have a bunch, but like any memorable ones.
Well, I have several, but I'm gonna. You've hit on some things that I think are really powerful. How do you see yourself? Like, right? Even Tim Lincecum, the nastiest hitter, you can get hits off of him. And Lance Berkman would always say, whenever you see some of that super nasty stuff, he'd say, step out of the box and remind yourself there's always room for a miracle. And I always knew I was never the best player, but my thing was I'm all heart and I am going to fight my tail off. I can get jammed and find a hit. I'm strong. I'm fast. I'm going to see the ball and I'm going to hit the ball. So how do you see yourself? And if I was to say, like, a lot of times, like facing closers in those big situations, you got to remind yourself, like, I trust my hands, I trust myself. I'm going to battle. I'm going to be ready early. Like you said, don't try to do too much and like, just see it and put it in play and good things can happen. Because a lot of times your greatest power comes with the gentlest touch. So I love that you're slowing down. You can see yourself beating anyone because we get to choose how we see ourselves, and no one's going to believe it for you that you can win the College World Series. Only you can believe that for you. So for me, I think a lot of those big at-bats is when you slow down and you're at peace with whatever happens, but you're going to give it everything you got. And at the end of the day, that's all you can do. And so it's like, be in love with the game. Take the field with love, and whether you win or lose, love the other team and love yourself. And that to me was what I learned in my journey.
That's what I love. Appreciating the moment. That's all we think. Just being the present.
Play with love. It's the greatest thing.
I love it.
Yes.
Brian, good luck. These moments right here, I cherish for you guys, certainly you athletes interacting with a guy like him. Best of luck to you in that regional, UNC, Georgia, VCU. Congratulations on what you've accomplished. We'll be watching the rest of your journey very closely.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on here.
He's Brian Morrell. They are going Hofstra with Coach Catalinato to the NCAA tournament, and it's a big, big thrill. When we come back, Vinny Servino, our resident college expert for Perfect Game, will join us. He'll talk about some of the bigger picture items as we head into the 64-team field. This is Perfect Game College Baseball. Hunter and I, glad to have you with us on Perfect Game TV. Perfect Game College Baseball celebrating the NCAA tournament and its impact, certainly. And with that in mind, Vinny Servino, the wonderful writer and expert on behalf of Perfect Game on the college level, leading all the content, does a lot of scouting at that level as well. Vinny spends time with us now. Vinny, a celebration, certainly. And when you look at, what Tennessee has done, and you guys ranked them all year long, I'm going to start there because I think we all kept waiting for Tennessee to be human. I mean, to Coach Vitello, I want to make this clear, just to be human. And then it turns out they never were. As far as college teams go, as they head into the tournament, have you seen a team in your time in doing this sort of content that has been this from wire to wire strong?
Yeah, Darren, the only two teams that come to mind really when you're talking kind of the last 5 or 10 years in college baseball are, teams like the 2016 Gators or the 2018 Oregon State Beavers, two teams that were pretty much wire to wire, top of the country, and two teams that obviously had a ton of MLB draft talent, future MLB players and stuff like that. And that's kind of exactly what you see with the Volunteers. Led the nation in ERA, led the nation in home runs, did it on both sides of the ball. They got a bunch of future big leaguers and a lot of options at their disposal.
So, Vinny, you mentioned Tennessee with the 2016 Gators and the 2018 Beavers, and obviously I don't totally remember those seasons how they went, but I can remember last year Arkansas not losing a series all season long, winning the SEC. going to the Super Regional and just missing going to the College World Series. How did the 2016 Gators and Beavers finish their respective career? Do you think Tennessee, are you going to be shocked if they don't win the World Series?
I'm not going to be surprised if Tennessee doesn't win the World Series. Obviously, I think they're the favorites heading into it, right? But you're talking about, I expect them to win the regional. I think that they are more than capable of doing that. But super regionals are always where things get really, really weird because you're only playing a 3-game series. That's it. You don't got to think about next week. You don't got to think about tomorrow. You got to win game tonight. And you see a bunch of teams who can really shorten those super regional games. You don't have to use everybody in the bullpen. Teams will shorten it down and use 4 or 5 pitchers in 3 games and be like, all right, these are our best 5 guys. This is who we're throwing at it. And hopefully a ball breaks our way and something like that. Because it's a game of luck sometimes. It's a game of chance, especially when you take out a lot of those factors. But, I mean, Tennessee is obviously an explosive team. I think they are better than Arkansas last year. But super regionals get really weird.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Benny. And baseball is baseball. And you just need one hot pitcher, a couple of lucky bounces with the ball going anywhere. But as far as like a sensational season, what the Vols did this year, like you said, like leading an ERA, pitching, hitting, literally everything, bullpen. So they're going to be extraordinarily exciting to watch. But I want to dive in a little bit, Benny, with like, who are some of the dark horses that if we're going to follow the tournament, that it's like, keep your eye on this team and this particular region. Can you give us a couple dark horses throughout the tournament that you're like, these guys have a couple pitchers that could just shut anybody down that you haven't really seen?
Obviously, there's a ton of dark horses because you're talking about a lot of 3 and 4 seeds being their conference champion when it comes to the regular season or the tournament. One that I think is really interesting. Most of the Field of 64 projections, including our own, had Gonzaga going to Corvallis, but Gonzaga is instead going to the Blacksburg Regional. And Gonzaga has one of the best starting rotations in the country. They have Gabe Hughes, who's a likely first rounder, Tristan Vreiling, and William Kempner, who throws 100 from the side. That could definitely shake some feathers when you go to Blacksburg. When you're talking about the high-octane Gonzaga pitching staff against the high-octane Virginia Tech offense, who obviously won the ACC outright this year. You also have some other interesting potential 3 and 4 seeds. I like San Diego in the Corvallis Regional, along with Oregon State and Vanderbilt, so that should be a lot of fun. And I think the Auburn Regional is going to be exciting as anything. You know, a lot of people didn't think Auburn was going to host. Revealing their name as a regional host site was kind of a surprise on Sunday night. And then you have Auburn, UCLA, and Florida State in the same regional. Florida State being one of the last 4 in, which is pretty funny in my opinion. I don't think that's necessarily true. But those 3 teams are going to go right at each other in an Auburn regional, and that's going to be just super exciting.
Incredible stuff, Vinny. Really appreciating your insight. It seems to be, and you mentioned, I love to, and you did it accidentally, but you took me right into my next subject, and it's mid-majors. You talked about the WCC, and in talking about teams that you thought were special, you mentioned Gonzaga and San Diego. But that league wasn't alone, right? In mid-major 2-bid leagues, because Dallas Baptist didn't win the Valley, they get in, and they also join the others in their tournament. You know, because Grand Canyon didn't win the WAC, New Mexico State did. Because Liberty didn't win the Atlantic Sun, Kennesaw State did. So it was really fun to see the bold mid-majors who took on, like Andy Stankiewicz did at Grand Canyon, anyone who would play him. And he beat a lot of those teams. It was fun to see. Sorry, Power 5 schools. It was fun to see the mid-majors rewarded for gutsy scheduling.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, Grand Canyon they couldn't win the conference tournament, but they had a top 10 non-conference strength of schedule. They were, I think, the second or third in our last 4 out on our final Field of 64 projection. They make it in. And that almost opens an interesting discussion that we want to have, right? Would you rather see 2 teams from the ASUN, the WCC, the WAC, or would you rather have the 9th ACC team in or the 10th ACC team? Like, I understand North Carolina State is a snub and all that, and I think Rutgers is definitely a snub. But it comes down to kind of, do you want that 9th or 10th or 8th best Power 5 conference team, or you want to give some of these smaller schools a shot? Because they're good too. Like, Kennesaw State was good all season long, and they won the ASUN. Liberty went down to Florida. Liberty going to the Gainesville Regional, and then they already won 2 of 3 in Gainesville to open the season, right? Like, these teams are legit.
Yeah, it's incredible to see that happen, and to see the way it pulled together. It was intriguing. I celebrate those mid-majors. I called one of Grand Canyon's wins on the Pac-12 network, ironically enough, when they hammered Arizona. And they look like the better team that day. They look like multiple days. Draft picks and a chance for draft picks to kind of up their stock. With the draft in July, there isn't kind of the natural meshing together, maybe the little bit of life panic that sets in about the draft. They just get to play with their teams. How important is it for athletes that, maybe are 10, 12, 14 round picks, maybe they're right in there. Can they change their lives in the next month?
Well, it's a little bit different now, just because of the fact that the draft is so later now. It's now mid-July instead of what would normally be probably like a week from today.
Yeah.
But there's obviously regionals are covered by all teams. A lot of guys get regional assignments, super regional assignments, that sort of thing. So and a lot of these games are going to be on national television sometimes. So guys have really a chance to make a name for themselves against quality opponents, because that's kind of part of it too, right? You think, especially the small school guys, when it's like, oh, well, I don't know about the competition. Well, yeah, if, you're a hitter for UNC Greensboro and you take a guy from Notre Dame and Texas Tech deep in the Statesboro regional, that's going to obviously generate some notoriety. But it is fun. It's always fun to see kind of these draft guys, especially the potential first rounders that nobody really knows, like Gabe Hughes, like I mentioned, or Cooper Jerpy at Oregon State, guys that are way out west, and people don't want to stay up late to watch Oregon State on weekends, but now they're going to be facing against Vanderbilt, and people are going to see Cooper Jerpy shove, and it's going to be a ton of fun.
You're absolutely right about that, Vinny. It is a ton of fun watching these regionals and super regionals and seeing how a lot of these projected first rounders play under pressure. And some of there's definitely going to be some shifts in movement because you're going to get to just see a different side, because there's regular season and then there's postseason and all the pressure on the line. And I think it tells you a lot, and you can be inspired by a lot of these players. There's one in particular here, Vinny, that I'm looking at, and I'm very excited about this tournament. And I might get a chance if I could get up there, but Stanford's regional, Texas State 45-12. I know I'm throwing you on the spot. UC Santa Barbara 43-12. Obviously Stanford 41-14. Can you talk a little bit about Texas State, what they did, and Santa Barbara 43-12 is these are insane records.
Yeah, so Texas State and Santa Barbara are two teams we obviously have in our top 25. Texas State really kind of ran the Sun Belt all season long. Obviously, they had some competition there with Coastal and Georgia Southern and some others. It was a very good year for the Sun Belt.
So Cal Poly, right? I mean, we were hoping to see Brooks Lee play some more baseball, and excited to see that happen. We need to get a baseball NIT. Maybe Perfect Game can build one of those. But a guy like Brooks Lee, and I'll put a bow on it with this. He's not playing and he's not going any further, but he may be a very high player taken. This is where I want to wrap this. How good is he? I mean, how high does he go in the draft? He's shortstop for Cal Poly. He's a young man whose dad, as the head coach, has learned a bunch. Tell us a little bit about Brooks Lee, the maybe, I don't know, top 5 pick?
Darren, he could potentially go number 1 overall. He's probably on most boards either the number 1, number 2, or number 3 college guy at this point. He's a switch hitter. He has power. He doesn't strike out at all. I think he struck out 7 times this year or something crazy like that. It's very, very high floor type of player. Is he a shortstop? Probably at first. Maybe he eventually moves to third base. He's got excellent hands. He's got a solid arm. And he'll stick on the left side of the infield, and he's going to hit for a high average, stay at the top of the order. He's a super safe profile, one that's been hitting from both sides as far back as high school.
Vinny, thank you for your insights, man. We're excited to watch this tournament. Enjoy it yourself and visit perfectgame.org. That's an obvious thing to say to see Vinny and his team as they cover this tournament.
Thanks again for having me, guys.
The Vin Man, his great scouting, his great coverage, and the great content on perfectgame.org and all the Perfect Game social platforms. Hunter Pence and Darren Sutton, thanking you for joining us. Enjoy the NCAA tournament. We'll be back with more fun and frivolity next week when we're knee-deep in this thing. We want to thank Brian Morrell as well. His story, outstanding as we got to know who this young man is going to the NCAA tournament. It's Perfect Game, college baseball on Perfect Game TV.